for so long. So yeah.
Well, the reason that people are going to be interested in this movie is that it just gives you this. It is an historic glimpse with these characters who've become iconic, not literary figures really, but in the culture. And it gives you a chance to spend some time with them. But it must have been slightly frustrating for you. You have this access to the footage, and yet you can't really go where the footage doesn't take you.
I guess so. I mean, to some extent, that was the rules of the game. It's a little bit like a cinema verite film. If you commit yourself to the idea that you're not going to insert yourself in some more manipulative ways, the narrative structure of verite sometimes is not as kind of intuitively fulfilling as or rigorous as, but you get other as something like Client 9, where the narrative is kind of propulsive.
Right.
But with something like this, it's a different kind of
it's more like
pleasure.
Gonzo, isn't it?
Well, even Gonzo. I mean, Gonzo was fully narrated by a single character, which was Hunter himself.
And you also had the footage, the archival footage.
And we had a lot of the archival footage, and we had the character of Hunter himself, one single character. So that was maybe more guided. This one is a little bit more anarchic, and so it's a little tougher for the viewer sometimes because you have to search the footage. But if you do that, you kind of get into it because suddenly they're actually talking.
So you've got the people narrating who were there, and by the way, this benefits from the fact that everybody was gorgeous.
Right, they were gorgeous. The
Project
men are
Men
handsome.
is the other one where the filmmaker really lucked out. There are all these sort of beautiful
the women
babes
are beautiful. The men are, they've all got these incredible six packs. They are beautiful to look at. Yeah, and they're all on the bus together. It's wild. You can feel the sensuality kind of rising up.
And they move around from one partner to the other. So you use the interviews that you did as a soundtrack narrative, and then you have an NPR interview.
Well, not the interviews that I did. I mean, a lot of
they're not. Are there old interviews? Most of them.
They're ones that Kesey and some of his cohorts had conducted with each other. Because Kesey had wanted to kind of make a movie like this, and they kept trying. And way back in the day, they showed the film to each other, and then they would get their comments. So like, oh, I remember this. Yeah, this is the part I remember. So there are some interviews that I did mixed in, but a lot of them are interviews that were done by Kesey, or this guy John Teton, who's working for Kesey, because he was trying to structure the film. He wrote a screenplay called The Further Inquiry, where he tried to, put the film together, but by then he could only do it on paper. And the result of it, I mean, the way he got the material for it was all these recordings of the pranksters themselves talking about the bus trip, but way back. And that was kind of the key for us, because that's the immersive aspect of it. So it's not them talking now about way back when, it's them back then talking.
But did he have himself talking?
No, the Kesey stuff we got from interviews that were done with him.
Terry Gross, right?
Terry Gross was one, but we collected a whole lot of interviews. So yeah, we collected a massive number of Kesey interviews, and he talked more, than the others.
It's
but to find this treasure trove,
he was gone by the time you were making the film.
Yeah, he was dead. He died in 2001.
Yeah.
The other thing we found some other, because it's not just the bus trip. We found some other materials that were just fantastic. And my favorite is we found this little box in the Kesey barn called Veterans Administration Hospital 1960. And I thought, no, it can't be. But it was. And what it was Kesey was a drug tester at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Menlo Park. And he would go in and be administered hallucinogenic drugs. Well, one day, he had a Wollensack tape recorder, and he was administered LSD by a big nurse. And then he would describe every 15 minutes what he was seeing and what he was feeling. He walks you through his own acid trip.
So you did the animation.
We did the animation, but the audio tape is Kesey.
And I liked all the close-ups of the tape recorder itself.
Right.
No, that was great. That was wild. Well, thank you, Alex. This was edifying. I didn't realize that you had the old footage and the old audios as well. And this is, when is it coming out? What's the plan? You're looking
Don't
for
know.
a distributor?
We History Channel, has the broadcast rights.
That makes sense.
But we're selling the film for theatrical and DVD.
I saw Eamon Bowles at the screening. I would think that your relationship there might be.
They seem very interested. There's a whole bunch of people, I think, who seem pretty interested. So I think it's looking pretty good.
Well, the
I think
media is going to cover this.
Well, they're going to totally cover it. And we have a kind of a fun idea, particularly for theatrical, of having a bus go across the country. And we would do like a kind of rolling thunder review. Whenever it's playing in a certain city, the bus will be there. We'll show the movie in the bus.
That's a great idea.
Maybe get the pranksters to come along.
You won't be handing out doses, though.
Of course. It's the best way to appreciate the film is to pass through a window of perception, a portal. Yeah, beam me up. Beam me up to the magic trip.
Now the bus itself, you shoot at the end of the movie covered with moss. I love that. Where was that?
Again, that's not the bus now is in the barn. That was shot actually by the wonderful verite camera person Joan Churchill when she went up to see him. But that was Kesey. I mean, in some ways, the Smithsonian wanted it, and for Kesey, the idea of having a bus in a museum just didn't seem right. So it just it's like some kind of weird Baptist thing or something. It's in the swamp and it's gathering moss, and there's something very beautiful about it and haunting. But he distrusted the idea that it would be put into a museum, that it would become an exhibit. Everything about that kind of official recognition, really rubbed Kesey the wrong way. So then you have this beautiful image of this